What's that fire in the sky?
It's the Van Allen belt of radiation, the 300-mile level. It caught fire about 50 hours ago. Nobody knows how, but a South African observatory reported heavy meteor activity at about the same time it exploded. The temperature has reached 135 degrees, and there's no way of knowing how much hotter it will get.
If you think this movie was just old-school submarine drama, you're in for a shock. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was a 1961 experiment in pushing boundaries, blending real Cold War fears with ideas so strange, even scientists begged Hollywood to stop Band Behind the Camera. Things got even weirder, from secret studio tech hidden under fake oceans to a submarine design inspired by sea creatures to scientific theories that freaked out actual researchers. This movie was a perfect storm of chaos and ambition. These are 16 weird facts about Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, 1961, the underwater adventure that nearly went off the rails. Number 1. The submarine that looked too advanced for 1961. When audiences first saw the Seaview glide across the screen, many genuinely believed it was based on a classified Navy prototype. That sleek manta-shaped hull and the massive 8-window panoramic bow made it look decades ahead of anything the real military had. Even engineers who worked on actual submarines were stunned by how futuristic it appeared. What most people didn't know is that the design wasn't military at all. It was pure Hollywood imagination. Irwin Allen wanted something that felt alive, so he told his team to ignore real submarines entirely. Production designer Herman Blumenthal studied sea creatures instead, sketching rays and sharks until the Seaview looked more like an underwater predator than a machine. It was a submarine so advanced, people thought the Navy was hiding it.
You have an expensive toy here, Admiral, though it is suitable for sightseeing.
Quite right, sir. We hope to see sights never before seen by man, and by seeing solve some of the mysteries of the deep.
Number 2. The science that terrified real researchers. The entire story hinges on the Van Allen radiation belt suddenly catching fire, turning Earth into a giant cosmic oven. Sounds insane today, but in 1961, the Van Allen belts had only been discovered 3 years earlier. Scientists were still scrambling to understand what they even were, so the idea that they could ignite and roast the planet genuinely freaked people out. Here's the wild part. Several physicists publicly complained after the movie's release, calling the concept nonsense and dangerously misleading. They were worried the public would believe Earth could actually burn from space. Irwin Allen didn't care. He doubled down and used the controversy to generate hype. Hollywood took a brand new scientific discovery and turned it into a doomsday fireball.
The fiery sky is now threatening to strike a mortal blow at the heart of the Midwest farm belt. Thousands of acres of vital grain have already shriveled under the intense heat, giving rise to fears of famine if the flaming belt continues to rage unchecked.
Number 3. Walter Pidgeon's unexpected return from the stage. By the time Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea went into production, Walter Pidgeon hadn't headlined a major film in years. He'd basically vanished from Hollywood, spending most of his time on stage, far away from the cameras and the grind of studio projects. Fans and industry insiders assumed he was done with big-screen sci-fi forever. Then Irwin Allen called, and Pidgeon shocked everyone by saying yes. His return added instant credibility to the movie, giving a wild, speculative disaster film a respected Oscar-nominated anchor inside the studio. People joked that if Pidgeon signed on, the movie must be bigger than it looked. His comeback wasn't subtle. He walked straight back in as the captain of the apocalypse.
Despite my objection, you encouraged desertion.
You can't argue with that. You're within your rights to record a protest, but Lieutenant, you can also record this. Desertion or not, we're better off without a murderer on board.
Number 4. The teen idol who sang the movie's theme song and then showed up on screen. In one of the strangest double-duty casting choices of the era, Irwin Allen hired teen heartthrob Frankie Avalon not just to appear in the film, but to sing its opening theme song. In 1961, Avalon was everywhere. Chart hits, magazine covers, screaming fans. So having him attached instantly pulled a younger audience into what was otherwise a serious Cold War sci-fi thriller. What makes it even weirder is how unusual this was at the time. Major studio adventure films almost never opened with a pop ballad.
Come with me on a voyage to the bottom of the sea.
Let alone one sung by one of the cast members. But Allen wanted buzz, and Avalon's voice gave the movie a strange mix of teen pop glam and nuclear panic drama. It was the only submarine film of the decade that started with a pop idol serenading the apocalypse. Number 5. The crew uniforms that made zero military sense. If you thought the Seaview's crew looked a little off, you're not imagining it. Instead of dressing the actors in proper US Navy uniforms, the production slapped them into World War II Army tropical khaki, and then patched on naval rank insignia like it was a Halloween costume mashup. Anyone who actually served in the military could spot the contradiction instantly. This wasn't a mistake, it was a shortcut. Irwin Allen wanted a sharp, clean look for the cast, and the studio already had warehouses full of Army khaki from earlier films. So instead of ordering accurate naval attire, they just mixed and matched whatever was lying around, creating a bizarre hybrid that didn't resemble any real branch of service. It was the only submarine crew dressed like they'd raided 3 different uniforms on the same morning. Number 6. A Cold War submarine mission, straight out of real classified operations. The movie opens with the Seaview operating beneath the Arctic ice cap. And while that sounds like pure Hollywood drama, this part actually came from real Cold War submarine breakthroughs. In the late 50s and early 60s, U.S. nuclear subs like the USS Nautilus and USS Skate were secretly testing under-ice navigation, surfacing through freezing sheets of polar ice in missions the public barely knew existed. Irwin Allen loved that mystique. Production notes confirm he borrowed the idea not to retell an event from the plot, but to give the Seaview an aura of cutting-edge espionage. This was a time when the Arctic was practically a military rumor, a place where submarines moved in silence and governments refused to admit how far they'd gone. The Seaview wasn't just fictional. It was inspired by real missions cloaked in Cold War secrecy.
You know, it bears out what you taught us at Annapolis. The wild dreams of today are the practical realities of tomorrow.
Number 7. The movie that accidentally launched a sci-fi empire. When Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea hit theaters, Irwin Allen had zero intention of turning it into a TV franchise. But the film's sleek sets, futuristic gadgets, and that unforgettable Seaview model were so expensive and so impressive that Fox told Allen he'd be crazy not to reuse them. So instead of letting the props rot in storage, Allen pitched a series to ABC. They loved it. Almost everything from the film, the control room, the corridors, the miniatures, was pulled out, dusted off, and used again, forming the backbone of the massively popular 1964 to 1968 TV series. It became one of Allen's biggest hits and directly paved the way for Lost in Space and The Time Tunnel. A single movie accidentally spawned Irwin Allen's entire sci-fi dynasty. If you're enjoying this deep dive into 1960s chaos, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next unexpected gem. And don't forget to hype the video. It tells YouTube this one deserves to be pushed out to more classic sci-fi fans like you. And trust me, the next facts get stranger, riskier, and way more explosive. Let's keep going. Number 8. A submarine designed without asking the Navy a single question. You'd think a big-budget submarine movie would consult the US Navy, but Irwin Allen didn't bother. Production designer Herman Blumenthal confirmed he never spoke to naval engineers, never toured a real sub, and never contacted the Pentagon. Instead, he built the Seaview entirely from photographs he found in magazines and newspapers. This meant the final design was a Frankenstein of whatever looked cool on camera. Parts of nuclear subs, parts of research vessels, and parts that didn't exist anywhere except in Allen's imagination. Real submariners later joked that the Seaview could only function in 2 places, Hollywood and a dream. It was the ultimate DIY submarine, built from guesswork and newspaper clippings.
We must amputate the belt or die.
Amputate? How?
With a shot in the heart. The burning belt must be exploded clear of the Earth's magnetic field. And we have exactly 16 days and 3 hours in which to do it.
Number 9. The nuclear plan that real scientists begged Hollywood to stop repeating. When the movie came out, newspapers couldn't stop talking about its wild solution to the Van Allen belt crisis: launch a nuclear missile into space to put out the fire. Even for 1961, this was so scientifically absurd that actual physicists stepped in to calm the public. Some even wrote to magazines saying the idea was beyond impossible. Comparing it to trying to blow out the sun with a firecracker, the controversy didn't hurt the film, it boosted it. Irwin Allen loved the outrage and refused to change a thing. The more scientists complained, the more people went to see what all the fuss was about. It was the rare Hollywood moment where bad science turned into great marketing. Number 10. A modest budget that exploded into a box office hit. For a movie packed with underwater effects, giant sets, and a futuristic mega submarine, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was made on a surprisingly tight budget, just $1.5 million. By early 60s Hollywood standards, that wasn't small, but it definitely wasn't lavish enough for a world-ending sci-fi disaster epic. And yet the gamble paid off spectacularly. The film hauled in around $7 million in the US and Canada alone, becoming one of the highest-earning sci-fi adventures of its year. Studio executives were stunned. A movie they expected to be a mid-tier performer suddenly became a goldmine. It was the little sci-fi film that quietly blew past everyone's expectations. Number 11. The submarine inspired by sea creatures, not engineering. Irwin Allen wanted the Seaview to look unlike anything audiences had ever seen. Not a real submarine, not a military prototype, but something almost alive. So instead of studying Navy blueprints, he went to aquariums. Production notes and interviews confirm he spent hours watching manta rays, sharks, and large fish glide through the water, sketching their shapes and movement. Designer Herman Blumenthal took those sketches and built the Seaview's signature curves, giving it that smooth, predatory manta ray profile. It was a submarine shaped by biology, not by physics, which is why it moves on screen with a strange, almost creature-like presence. It's the only submarine in movie history modeled after something that could actually swim away. Number 12. The 17-foot Seaview miniature that shocked the effects crew. Most submarine movies rely on tiny miniatures only a few feet long, but Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea went completely overboard. The production built a massive 17-foot, 3-inch fiberglass Seaview model, one of the largest underwater miniatures ever created at the time. Effects artists joked that it was less a model and more an actual boat, heavy, unwieldy, and requiring multiple crew members just to move it into the tank. This huge size wasn't for show. The team needed the Seaview to look convincing, gliding through water under high-speed cameras. Smaller models tend to wobble, float wrong, or reveal scale issues, but this monster allowed the water to react realistically. Waves, ripples, drag, everything. Technicians even rigged water jets and weighted ballast sections so it would dive and surface like a real sub, not a toy. It was the rare Hollywood miniature so big it practically needed its own trailer. Number 13. The movie that used 4 completely different posters to trick audiences. Most films in 1961 got 1 official theatrical poster, maybe 2, if the studio was generous. But Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea broke the mold with 4 radically different poster designs, each selling a totally different version of the movie. One leaned into fiery global disaster, another pushed the sci-fi submarine angle, another teased monster movie vibes, and one even hinted at romance. Audiences in different regions genuinely thought they were going to see different films. This wasn't an accident. It was a marketing experiment. Fox wanted the film to hit every demographic possible, from teens chasing Cold War thrills to parents looking for spectacular adventure. So instead of choosing one identity, the studio tested them all at once. Theater owners picked whichever poster they thought would pull the biggest crowd, which meant the film shape-shifted depending on where you lived. It was one movie with 4 faces, an early example of Hollywood weaponizing marketing psychology. Number 14, the giant water tank that became a Fox secret weapon. Most underwater scenes weren't filmed in the ocean at all. They were shot inside 20th Century Fox's enormous studio water tank, one of the biggest in Hollywood at the time. The tank was so large it needed custom-built lighting rigs, suspended platforms, and dyed water treatments to fake deep-sea darkness. Divers and stunt performers later said shooting in that tank was brutal. The water was freezing. Visibility dropped fast under the lights, and actors had to repeat long, exhausting takes while fighting currents created by industrial fans. But the results were so convincing that Fox reused the tank for years in other aquatic films and TV productions. It was Hollywood's own private ocean, built just to make the Seaview look real. Number 15. A famous sci-fi author turned the screenplay into a novel. Right as the film was hitting theaters, publishers rushed out a novelization written by none other than Theodore Sturgeon, one of the most respected voices in classic science fiction. Instead of treating it like a quick cash grab tie-in, Sturgeon dug deeper into the characters, the technology, and the world Irwin Allen created, expanding scenes and adding layers the movie never had time to show. What makes this unusual is how rare it was in the early 60s for a major sci-fi author to adapt a Hollywood script, especially one built on such wild, speculative science. Fans were shocked to see Sturgeon's name on the cover, and the novel ended up giving the film an unexpected boost among serious sci-fi readers. It was the rare case where the book didn't inspire the movie, but the author made the movie look smarter. Number 16. The actor who turned down the movie, then ended up becoming the face of the franchise. Before filming began, Irwin Allen offered the role of Captain Crane to David Hedison, fresh off The Lost World, 1960. Hedison surprised everyone by turning it down. He didn't want to get typecast in back-to-back Irwin Allen adventure films and felt the character didn't give him enough space to shine. The studio moved on, cast someone else, and production rolled forward without him. But here's where it gets weird. Just a few years later, when Allen launched the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea TV series, he circled back to Hedison with the same offer, and this time, Hedison said yes. Not only did he accept, he became the definitive Captain Crane, starring in over 100 episodes and becoming one of the most recognizable faces of the entire franchise. Fans of the series often assume he originated the role, never knowing he actually rejected it first. He turned down the movie, only to return and become the captain everyone remembers. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea isn't just another 1960s sci-fi adventure. It's a time capsule of wild ideas, risky filmmaking, and the kind of bold creativity Hollywood rarely touches anymore. From strange science to real Cold War influence, to sets that accidentally built a TV dynasty, this movie left a much bigger mark than anyone expected. If you enjoyed this dive into cinematic weirdness, make sure to subscribe, hype the video, and check out the playlist for more forgotten gems from the golden age of sci-fi. Until then, keep exploring the deep.